Jim, do I call you Slim Jim, Jim, or Phantom? Because you basically have three names.
That's part of the charm. Everyone settles on one that they feel comfortable with, and I answer to all of those ones.
Yeah, so Long Island native, but when did you first move to LA?
I moved to LA in '82, I think. I'd been here once before. The Stray Cats were living in England that whole time, from '80 to '82, mainly traveling any one place very long.
Right.
But when we came to LA to play the Roxy, I just stayed. Kind of, I never left. So I've been here since '82.
Did the whole band move at that time, or just you?
Just me at that time. I think the others back to New York. I can't quite remember, because now it was time to like come and conquer the States. It was after we had spent a couple of years in Europe, and now it was time to do America. So we really just lived, I think, on the bus or in the airport or wherever, how we were doing it back then. But I think I was the first one that moved here. And then I think the others two did move here after that for a little while, but then they moved back to New York, I think.
Got it. My wife and I had the pleasure of seeing your gig in Amityville, where they finally passed you to be able to play that venue, I guess 2.5 to 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great that was tied in with the new record. Great new record. Are the Stray Cats on hold again, or what's the situation with the group?
Well, I think as soon as it's available to play again, I think everybody will. We were caught up in that, like everybody else. It changed when you could work, and then it was there was something when we could have technically gone and worked a little while ago, but there was these capacity issues, and it was just wasn't the right time, So I think we'll do it again.
But of course, Rockabilly Confidential is a sign that you have not stopped working. And I admire that every episode is 20 minutes or less. When in the process did you realize that time limit would be a good thing?
Well, when the good people at Snippet, who's a fantastic platform, when they came to me and had the idea for this, my first reaction was podcasts are seemingly, because I'm not an expert on any of it, seems like you have to invest a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And the couple times I was in a car with someone, they said, "You got to listen to this podcast." Yes, it all seemed like just my attention span is not that long. And the Snippet people explained that their concept was to do podcasts that, with the music, with the story, all comes in at 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Did a quick Rolodex in my head. What takes 20 minutes? Going down to check the mail, going down to the mall, going down to order a taco and waiting in the parking lot till it's finished till you get all that's 20 minutes. So
right.
The idea that because I'm thinking of the listener more. I can just go and ramble, but it's a bit of a challenge to get it under the 20 minutes and get the 3 songs in there and have the story tied up at the end with a bow. So I like the challenge of it, and I like the format.
I'd imagine it is a challenge to have to put together everything in that concise matter, that making it all tie together. Do you put it together one by one, or did you, almost like a writer's room, do it in a batch for the season?
We did it one by one. I think at the beginning of the season, Tyler McClusker, who's the head over at Snippet, said, "What can we expect?" And I, went down a little bit of a laundry list. Oh, I can do this one. I could do this one. I could do one when we went to the mountain, one when we did the US Festival, one when we did. But it's kind of a loose. No one's holding me to it. I tend to get inspirational in the moment. When something happens, I'll see a photograph, or not even a photograph of me, some magazine, or that reminds me of another story that that'd be a good Snippet one. And if it's fresh in my head, that always makes for the best ones.
And Long Island does come up plenty on this podcast. When in your journey did Long Island become non-nauseating for you?
Well, I think Long Island was a very good place to live. I think, excuse me, in our town, there was a lot of other kids who liked music
Mhm.
and had who had instruments. We were able to go and play at a lot of the people's houses. My house being one, Lee's house being really the epicenter.
Right.
They had the whole garage there. It was really when we left, really, because we knew we wouldn't live there anymore. So anything else was like quaint characteristics of a place that we used to live in. But during the time when we did live there, 1978, 70, well, all during being a kid, it really wasn't the most tolerant place for alternate appearance
Right.
or rock taste. It was definitely hard to live day to day, walking through Massapequa was our place in pink peg pants and blue suede shoes and purple jacket and hair sprayed up 5 inches. It really was pretty hard to get past anyone without getting a snide comment at best or some type of confrontation about it all, which I never still quite figured out.
Yeah.
But I did always figure out how to inflame the situation further. With that, I would usually say something like, "How come you care what another guy's hair looks like so much?" That kind of stuff. So,
Massapequa, the home base town. I gotta cut you off there. You guys, Seinfeld, the Baldwin brothers. I think Stuttering John was from there. I think one of the members of Zebra was from there or was living there. Is there a Long Island town that had more of an impact on the world than Massapequa?
I don't know. Don't leave out Buttafuoco though, too. It's so funny because I don't know if anyone knew each other. I had a couple of older cousins who said they were in school with Jerry Seinfeld.
Mhm.
Remember that much. I do stay in touch with Billy Baldwin. Always have. He's in our grade. See, it's funny, this like when you're in 9th grade, someone who's in 10th, 11th, they might as well be in a different school.
Yeah.
It's very much like that's why, like within the Stray Cats, Brian is 2 older than us. So when Lee and I were in the 8th grade, he was in the 10th grade. It was that they were much older than you then, So unless someone was in your exact grade, you didn't really know them that much. Now, of course, that we're all 85 and 87 years old, it doesn't matter. But I don't even know if it's really ever embraced it. I don't know. Might be have you been back lately? Are you from there?
I live in Long Beach, grew up in Belmore, and
Okay.
when you want to go for the greatest burger, where do you go?
All American.
All American. You see, Massapequa is not left too far behind.
So you were Belmoron.
A Belmoron. Belmore did not give the world as much culturally as Massapequa. I think we can agree on that one.
But
We
we
had
did name check it on the first Stray Cats album.
Belmore is said on the first Stray
live
Cats album.
Yeah, I live in Belmore, USA. Most of our crowd was Belmorons who would travel. In those early days, we had quite a good crowd. Not one of them being Rockabilly, but we did have quite a few of them. People-wise, it looked like Dazed and Confused or Not High or something like that. But we had and we were their local eccentrics, and they followed us every gig that we went to through Amityville, Pequot.
Yeah.
We did one that was this bizarro kind of boogie nights, singles, those places that had telephones at the tables. We played one place like that, which we were young and kind of afraid. I'd like to go back now and say that there was some funny story attached to it, but we were kind of afraid, people older than you and didn't quite know what it was. We did Arrows in Belmore. That was by the train station. We did, I think that was Merrick, the Yankee Peddler on Merrick Avenue.
Yes.
Phineas Tees, which was in Rockville Center, was it? That was on Sunrise Highway. But we definitely had a crowd that came everywhere to see us, but it was not like any Manhattanite, no one's making a documentary about them years later. It wasn't anything like that. But they were loyal and loved us. They didn't particularly know what we were doing. Buddy Holly from anything else. They just knew that we were their local eccentrics, and we needed help, I think.
Well, bring it back to Rockabilly Confidential. Being the age range that you are, you've basically seen Rockabilly become cool and uncool 3 or 4 times. When did you kind of realize that musically everything would be cyclical, that, hey, don't worry, it's out of fashion now, it's niche now, but it's going to be hip again in 5-10 years?
Right. Well, I'm still waiting for it to be exactly mainstream again. I don't really know. I mean, before the Stray Cats when Elvis was doing Rockabilly, there might have been a little. Eddie Cochran had a couple of hits. Buddy Holly had a hit. A little Richard, Jerry Lee. But I think Rockabilly as a movement, there was a couple of years there where a lot of things happened.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran, Richie Valens fell by the wayside. Johnny Burnett soon after that. Elvis was drafted. I think a whole movement pretty much just stopped in a funny way, and might have carried out on a bit of a regional level for a little while. But right after that, it went straight to pop singers,
right,
and the Beatles. So I don't know if it's ever been hip again until the Stray Cats. It was accidentally in vogue. It was used in advertising, and other people who don't usually dress that way for a minute. But as far as being a movement that's back completely in vogue, I think in a funny way now it might be bigger. There's more people. It's a bigger cult. But I don't know if anyone since the Stray Cats pretty much seized it and made it chart records again. I think we're still the only ones. I would love for it to happen. I would love nothing more than to be the elder statesman of that movement. Believe me, I'd love it.
You're right in terms of multi-platinum. No one else has done that. We have seen eras where there would be a few major label scoop ups of Rockabilly bands. We'd see the Reverend Horton Heat and Royal Crown Review, that kind of stuff happen, and therefore they'd be booked on the late night shows. They'd be the Buzzbin kind of bands. They'd be on 120 Minutes on MTV. That did happen a few times, just like ska came and went a few times, and pop punk went and came and went a few times as well.
I think influences have slipped in there. I think every now and again, whether it would be singers where maybe we love her, but Gwen Stefani, of course, she's like a trendsetter, or say Madonna, or say J-Lo, or say someone of that huge showbiz stature. Maybe they went 50s for one cycle kind of thing, but I don't know if anyone is like bought into the whole thing like the Stray Cats say, and it becomes a household word. Rev Ho is great. He's my friend, and we hang out and we do gigs together. But even he has this conversation with me. Like, I don't know if he has a song that's really part of the, Webster's. I don't know if it's in there. The very thing that we're proud of the Stray Cats, I am personally, is that before the Stray Cats, someone would meet us and say, "What is your band like?" Well, we really like the 50s, but not the soft part of the 50s. We like to mix a few of maybe the square elements with some of the harder elements of it. And we use a slap bass, but the drums are very aggressive. And we have a guitar player who plays a hollow body, but it's very cranked up.
Right.
And we love punk rock, but not as much as we love rockabilly. And now, if you have a new group, and you're explaining to someone, what's your band like? You can say it's kind of like the Stray Cats, and they know exactly what you mean.
I'm with you there. That
Become
makes
an adjective. I think that's been a contribution of ours.
Well, two quick questions for you, and then I'll let you roam free. And the first one is, do you think we'll see, or rather hear, a third season of Rockabilly Confidential?
Oh, I love doing it because it really sparks my memory to a story. And things happen all the time that become a good little story. And I love weaving 3 songs into it. I really dig doing that. And then it's the challenge to get in, get the job done, get out. And the people at Snippet are very cool. I like the people that are involved, and I like their concept. And I think it's a winning formula. I like the other people on the network, and I dig their platform.
And then the last question I have for you is for a book I'm slowly writing, and it can be a no answer or can actually have an answer to it. And that's, the Stray Cats had a lot of success. It was independent of other genres, but you have always collaborated with other artists, been in other scenes, transcended trends, etc. The book I'm slowly writing is about David Lee Roth.
Okay.
You were part of a lot of the jam nights in LA, and pretty much every former Roth sideman has been part of those. But did you ever have an interaction with Roth at any given time?
Yes. A lot of those jam nights happen at a joint that I own called the Cat Club.
Yes.
A lot of those guys would come in. I don't know if I saw Steve there, but he's a friend of mine. He's a Long Island guy.
Yeah, Carl Place.
I think Roth's first solo band was one of the greatest rock bands ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. That combination when Greg, Steve, and Sheehan did it, I think was amazing. I see Greg around quite a bit, actually. I hadn't in a long time, and then all of a sudden we start seeing each other, and now we're in touch again. Did Roth come himself? I cannot say. Edward was my friend. I talk a lot about him. He's in a book. He was in my book. I met him at US Festival because he came in a day early and hung in. But I think I knew him before that. But I did have a bunch of playing experience with Edward. With Dave, I know I met Dave quite a few times at nightclubs, hanging out, and dressing rooms. There was a memorable one when we all did this San Remo festival in Italy, which was a funny one because there was international acts from all over the world who you were there to basically do one song. And I think you might have mimed it as well, the song. And I think Van Halen might have been doing something like Dancing in the Streets. Is that possible?
Yeah, that was an early 80s single for them.
Yeah.
Yes, off of Diver Down.
And the Stray Cats would have probably been doing Rock This Town or No Runaway Boys, I think. And one of those things where you're stuck with someone for like 17 hours in a dressing room kind of thing. And I thought the guy was great. I still think he's great. I'd like to see him again someday, but we definitely know each other. And he's a larger than life character. I think he's awesome, really. I think he still lives in Pasadena, the same house from what I hear.
You're correct. That same former oil hair mansion place.
I love the guy, and I think he's important for rock and roll, and he can call me anytime.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time, the many years of great music, and whether it's in a side project, the Stray Cats, whatever it is, hope to see you live very soon in the near future.
We'll see the Cats soon enough, hopefully.
Fingers crossed, man. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks, buddy.
Paltrocast.